Hello, everyone. Welcome to Checking In with Changemakers with Be the Change Media Network. My name's Lily Mott, and this is the show where I get to catch up with past guests of Be the Change podcast. And I've been hosting Be the Change podcast for over 3.5 years, getting close to 4 years now, and my guests have done some very exciting things since I talked with many of them. So this is going to be an update on their work and all of the exciting things that they've done since I got to speak with many of them. My guest today is Fatimata Cham, and she is an organizer, an activist, and a poet. And I featured her on Be the Change podcast all the way back in August of 2021, and she was featured in episode 49 of the podcast. So it's been quite a while since I got to talk with her, but I have been following along with a lot of the work that she's been doing, and she's been doing some very exciting things. So I think it's going to be great to chat with her about all of those things and learn about some of the work that she's been doing since then. I remember when I spoke with her, I thought it was really amazing that she was integrating her poetry and her passion for art into her activism, and she was able to combine those really well, which were kind of different parts of her identity. And so I thought that was amazing, and I'm excited to learn how she's continued to do that, maybe how she's doing it differently now. But yeah, it's going to be a great conversation, so I'm excited for you all to be tuning in and listening to that. Fatimata should be joining us in a little bit, but this is always the most complicated part of these, I think, is just getting the Instagram live started. So hopefully we'll get that going in just a second. But as far as other things that are coming up on Be the Change Media Network this week, we're going to have a very exciting special tomorrow where it's actually not going to be the Change on air. It's going to be a kind of follow along with me day in the life, and I'm going to be speaking at an event in London and doing a special Be the Change podcast live episode. So tune in for that tomorrow. But yeah, more on that to come. Fatimata just joined, so I'm going to go ahead and invite.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so good. Oh my gosh, how is everything going?
Good. I was literally having lunch, and then I was like,
Okay.
2 p.m. I'm supposed to be online right now.
That's what I figured. I was like, I don't want to like bug her. I'm sure that she's like eating. I caught you right at lunchtime, so I knew.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to talk with you. I was just kind of bragging about you a little bit in the introduction, but I have been following along with just all of the work that you've been doing, and I think it's so exciting. But I'm excited to kind of learn more from your side of things rather than just my, Instagram stalking that I did. Um, so like you did on the podcast, I would love for you to give a quick intro. I did one, but definitely doesn't do you justice. So tell me about who you are, the work that you're doing, and then we'll dive in deeper from there.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here today. Hi, everyone. My name is Fatimata Cham. I'm currently 22 years old now. I'm from the Bronx, New York. Identify as a human rights activist and poet, but most of the issues that I advocate for surround gender equality and environmental justice. In terms of the work that I've done so far, so I am previously a teen advisor to the UN Foundation Girl Up. I also published a book of poetry called Perfectly Imperfect, and then also recently became a Truman Scholar and graduated college as a double major in government and law and women and gender studies. So that's just a bit about me.
It's so exciting. And you won the Pepper Prize?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Tell me about
Yes.
speaking. You spoke at your graduation, right?
Yes.
Tell me about
Yes.
that.
Yeah, so I also won, like Lily said, the George Wharton Pepper Prize, which is basically like an annual award that's given to the senior who best represents our college ideals. So it's like a really huge thing, and they have like 10 finalists, and then the entire school votes on who they want to win the award, and it's like a $7,000 grant, and then you also speak at graduation. And so I was super excited when I won the award because I felt like it was like, I don't know, not that it was like a big deal, but it was sort of a big
It
deal.
was, yeah.
Yes, the second Black woman in school history to win the award. So in my commencement address, like sort of talked about my experience, and then also like just the overall experience of going to a predominantly white institution and like trying to find your voice, and then ultimately the impact that college had on me, because I feel like I was able to grow a lot over the 4 years, whether it was like running student government or joining different clubs and just wanting my classmates to know like how much they meant to me and how much they've impacted my life. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I miss you guys too.
Oh, that's actually what I was going to ask you because I
Yeah.
remember we talked back in 2021.
Yeah.
So we would have been sophomores, finishing our
Yes.
sophomore year. So
Yeah.
how did you kind of navigate doing your activism and doing your work as a poet and doing all of that with college life and being involved on your campus? Can you tell me about that a little bit? Because I think that's a really interesting part of
Yeah.
being a student and an activist as well.
No, for sure. Like it was definitely tough because a lot of the work that I was doing in school was also reflective of the work that I was doing outside of school. So, just trying to balance like showing up for others and then showing up for myself and then making sure I turn in my assignments on time and still be a student. It was definitely a lot trying to navigate. And I think for me, especially during the pandemic, which was like that 2020 2021 year, I was kind of just like trying to lean as much as possible on the community that I had on campus. So that was like organizations like Association of Black Collegiates, Sierra Lafayette, just like leaning on those organizations to kind of get that help necessary for me to be able to show up fully as myself. So I also was very honest with myself when I needed to take a break from things. So like whether it was like I couldn't make a meeting or couldn't like meet whatever requirement, I just made sure to like communicate that. But yeah, it was definitely hard navigating, trying to balance that, being a student, because ultimately you're in school and you want to like graduate on time. So yeah,
Yeah. I think that is so important. That's what I've started to realize
yeah,
more with myself is communication is just the most
yeah,
important part, just being
yeah,
open with people. And if
yeah,
you have to explain exactly what your schedule looks like on a day, that's okay to do because I
yeah,
think often people just don't understand sometimes that you're balancing a bunch of different things. And
yeah.
as soon as you make that clear, people are like, oh, okay, okay,
Cool.
all
Yeah,
good. Everyone's had
yeah,
those days. So it's just
yeah,
being honest about it. And
yeah,
I love that. I think that's great.
yeah.
So, what are you working on now? Because I've seen lots of LinkedIn things and
Yes.
explain that to me.
Yeah, so right now, I've been working on this project called Climate for Sisterhood, and that's kind of been like the core of what I'm doing right now, trying to gather, collect stories of women from vulnerable communities who've been impacted by climate change and give them a platform and ultimately turn that into. I've received a grant recently from this cohort called Youth Climate Leaders Cohort. And I started to distribute those funds to individuals who want to start building projects on the ground in their communities. One of them we actually sponsored. She's from Ghana. Her name is Cynthia. So we've been coordinating with her right now to try and help her get her project or workshop or whatever she wants started. So I've been working really on that. And then on top of that, I'm also a D&I talent coordinator. So basically what that means is just I help to bring in diverse voices into my company. So I've been working, going to career fairs, visiting schools, talking to students, having one-to-one sessions with them, giving them advice on like professional development. Been doing that. And then I've also been doing a lot of like speaking engagements. So like right now, or soon I will be at the sales talking to the students for Women's History Month about like advocacy work, like how they can get involved. And then I've also been working a lot with this organization called Malika. Recently, I was at like not, it's like a roundtable discussion with other African women within the local community who are advocates. And that roundtable was so cool, like just hearing from them and listening to the work that they're doing. So that was a really cool experience. But yeah, I've just been like in and out the community, trying my best to like help as much as possible, but just give space to other people.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's been really exciting to follow along because you
Yeah.
have so many different things going on. So whenever
Yeah.
I see like your name on LinkedIn, I'm like, oh, what is this part of what she's
What
doing?
is
What
she,
is
yeah,
this?
what is she doing here? Yeah.
But I love that. I think that's the best
Yeah.
way to be, and that's certainly not boring. There's so much
Yeah.
going on.
It's never boring.
Yeah, every day is gonna look a little bit different, which I
Yeah.
love. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
So as far as the future for you,
Hmm.
and this can be kind of shorter term, like you were saying, you have some exciting events
Yeah.
coming up, but also longer term. Tell me a little bit about what's next for you, what you're looking forward to. Tell me about that.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to grad school. So, in college, I also won the Truman Scholarship, which is like a public service award, like 30,000 towards grad school. So, I've definitely been in the grad school scene, like hearing and listening to other people who are currently in grad school. So, I'm looking forward to that. I'm potentially looking at schools in DC to try and like amplify some of the work I'm already doing through policy, or going abroad to London, perhaps, going to like the SOAS School of African Studies, probably. So just navigating and just exploring different grad school options right now. And then in the future, I do want to eventually run for public office. I have said this like before, but I do feel like whatever capacity that is, I do local election, probably like, I don't know, Bronx borough president or something like that. I do want to run for like public office.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
That's great. As far as your poetry,
Yeah.
are you still writing? What does
Yes.
that look like for you? Tell me
Oh
about
my
that.
God. I always tell people, I'm like, yes, guys, I'm still writing. I just haven't like gotten the chance to really like sit down and like share it out yet. But yeah, I'm always writing. Like whether it's about like what's going on or what's going on in my personal life, because it's just always like a good way for me to like reflect. So yeah, for me right now, I would say, yeah, I'm still writing, just haven't like shared anything yet.
That's
Yeah.
exciting. I love that. That's just great. That's the part that I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you about, because I
Yeah.
remember when we talked the first time, I was
Yeah.
like so blown away by just, I think it's so cool the way that you are able to include your activism and all of these
Yeah.
really important worldly things in your
Yeah.
poetry, and I think
Yeah.
it's great. You were like the first person I was like, "Oh my God, this is
Uh,
like just the art and the activism coming together." I was
Thank
like, "This is great."
you.
Of course. So I'm going to ask you the signature question that I asked
Mhm.
you all the way back, but lots of young people want to create change, want to make a difference in the world, in their communities, but they may not know how to get started with that work. What advice do you have for those people who may be listening?
Mm, that's a good question. I always try not to give like a surface level answer to this question, because I'm like, it's so easy for like people to be like, hey, like all you have to do is like write to your elected official and, I don't know, go out and like protest. I feel like, I don't know. My best advice for someone who's like trying to like navigate this world and trying to like advocate the best way they can is to, I don't know, start with yourself. That's the most cliche answer, but I would truly say like try and understand who you are, who you're trying to become, and the people that you're trying to impact. Because once you like answer those like three core questions, like knowing proudly like who you are, knowing what community you're serving, and then knowing the person you want to become, I think it makes it easier to do a lot of the other stuff that you're aspiring to do. So yeah, I would say my biggest advice is to try and find and go on that journey of answering those questions. You're never going to get like a perfect solid answer, but at least with the community question you can start to see like, oh, like the community that I'm trying to serve is the one in the South Bronx, and the specific community is the Gambian and Senegalese community. Like, how am I going to reach those people? So yeah, I would say try and answer those three questions and like go and navigate that journey as best as you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that's great. I don't think that was cliche at all. I think
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Um, I also forgot to ask, but the Netflix show, or
Yeah.
the Apple show.
Yeah.
Tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I always forget to mention this. I filmed the Apple TV
Yeah.
show in during the pandemic of 2020, and it wasn't released until I think no, 2 years ago in 2022. It was with Apple TV, and basically I received this really cryptic message on Instagram from a producer or a casting agent, and they were like, hey, like we saw your work, and like I ignored it honestly for the first couple of months, because I was like, oh my God, like what if this is a scam or like something, I don't know. I was like, I'm not too sure about this. But then they reached out again. And so I took a chance and I did like a screening and then a screen test, and then I flew to LA. And basically they had me like write a letter to Malala Yousafzai about like how she's impacted me, and like throughout the film you'll see her like read bits and pieces of the letter along with me. So that was like really cool. And there, I think the film or our episode also features like other women from across the country who've also done like really cool advocacy work. So it was just really cool to pay not homage, but pay respect to someone who's impacting my work on a local level. But it was like really weird because I like when I was writing the letter, I mentioned this. I remember in middle school, someone had written in my yearbook that I was going to be the next Malala Yousafzai, and I literally did not, literally did not know who she was at the time, for real, for real. And then, like, obviously, as I start getting more into my advocacy work, like, I knew who she was. But it was just so, like, it came full circle, like, being able to tell her, like, she's impacted me, impacted my work. But also, it was just cool seeing, like, other women who are doing really cool, dope work in their respect. So, yeah, it was a cool experience. My first time, obviously, and only time filming a TV show. Being on set, they were really accommodating. And were really helpful through the process. I got to wear a lot of my own clothes, which is cool, and talk about my community. So yeah, that it was a 10 out of 10 experience.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool because that must have been like right after we talked or like around
Yeah.
that time because I was like I was
Yeah.
looking back and I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that is so cool. I
Yeah.
remember us not talking about that or unless I just entirely blocked it out, which I don't think I would have forgot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
What are the best ways for people to get in touch with you, to follow along with the work that you're doing, all of it?
Yes, of course. So you can follow me on my Instagram at Fatimata Cham, or follow Climate for Sisterhood on Instagram. And then feel free to also add me on LinkedIn because I feel like I've been trying to get more active on there and talk more about my work. But yeah, that's the best way to stay connected, and like feel free to message me. I try to be as responsive as possible.
Perfect. No, you definitely
Yeah.
are. I think you were one of the
Yeah.
first people to like do this with me, and I was like, yes,
Oh,
yes. So
yay. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
But thank you so much to everyone who's watching
Mhm.
or listening back later on the podcast. And if you want to talk about anything I mentioned, please reach out to me on Instagram at Be the Change Media Network, which is this account. And if you enjoyed this conversation, leave a comment or a rating and subscribe to the podcast to hear more inspiring stories. And tune in to listen to this week's episode of Be the Change podcast tomorrow. But until then, be the change you wish to see in the world. Bye, guys, and thank you so much again. This was so much fun.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye.